So you're going to come around onto all fours. And step your right foot in between your hands. Bring your both hands to your front knee. And before we go down into our lunge series, we're just going to pay a little attention to our hip flexor here by tucking the tailbone under and creating some length, a gentle stretch through the front of the thigh and right up into the hip here. You can intensify the stretch by taking the arms up by your ears, reaching up into your fingertips, and really tuck the buttocks under. And release. Relax for a moment. We'll do it one more time. Tuck it under. And release. Hands down to your knee. All right. Settling down now into a crescent lunge. Hands to your knees to begin. And then inhale. Reach up. Exhale, taking the arms down and out to the side. Open up through the chest. And if you have the flexibility in your spine and it feels safe, taking your upper body back a little, taking a little back bend with that movement. Then inhale, lift up, exhale. One more time, inhale and exhale. Now both hands to the floor, shifting your hips back, straightening out through your front leg. If you need to run and grab a pillow, go ahead and stick it under your knee. Just because we're going to be here a few more minutes. Flex your toes back towards you as you reach back into your hips and allow your upper body to fold forward over your front leg. Use your spider hands to grip into the floor either side of your foot to help you draw your upper body forward. Beautiful. Now we're going to make a dynamic movement of the two, crescent lunge, and taking the hips back into half splits position. So moving forward and back with your breath. Inhale, open and lengthen, exhale. Inhale. Exhale. One more time, inhale. Exhale. Flatten your hands to the floor. Tuck your back toe under. Option to go plank and just step the other foot forward, or if you want to stretch out in downward dog, go ahead. Any takers? Maybe not. And then from there, knees to the floor. Stepping your left foot forward now. And coming up with your hips stacked above your back knee, pretty much. Right hip stacked above your right knee, I should say. Inhale. Raise the arms up. Tuck the tailbone under, pressing your right hip forward. Release for a moment, soften. Then inhale. Same again. Lift through the spine. Hips, shoulders, hands, knee all stacked. Pressing that right hip forward. And exhale. Both hands to your front knee. And drop down into crescent lunge. Just letting go, letting go. Then inhale, reach up. Inhale, lift. Exhale, taking the hands down, open and expand. Mini back arch, inhale. Exhale. Doing that a few more times. Last one. And hands come forward into the floor. Taking your hips back, straighten out through that leg, flex your toes back toward you, then go spider hands. And when you're ready, starting to shift your weight forward and back. This actual pose, I mean, they call it half splits, but if you're someone that is exploring Hanumanasana, full split pose, this is a really great way to prep for splits. So it really helps to open up through the hamstrings, the back of the leg, in complement to our crescent lunge that we were just practicing. One more time. And then when you're ready, transitioning back to both feet together, either plank or downward dog. Knees to the floor. Step your right foot to the outside edge of your mat. I'll just show you the angle here. And here is where you might like to have your bolster handy. So this is a normal crescent lunge. Hips and feet are kind of square. And our dragon lunge, there's a diagonal stretch. So stepping that foot out to the side. And we may like to have our bolster. You guys drop down into a nice diagonal lunge here. I'll just show you a couple of options. You might like to have your bolster and blocks ready to be able to come forward. I will move mine in a moment. So both hands are to the floor underneath your shoulders. And I'm just going to invite you to roll through your hips very slowly and very carefully. So instead of just staying in one diagonal position, knowing that our hip joints do move ball and socket style, being able to just guide them through a little bit of range of motion here, nourishing the tissues with a little gentle, loving movement. And while you're exploring your hip in that way, you might notice some little points that need some extra TLC, and you can just stay there for a moment, breathe into it. And then coming back to still dragon pose, but the option to fold forward, which might look like a forearm on the floor, and taking your hand wrapped or arm wrapped around your knee and just letting your head hang heavy. You can also bring your bolster in here for some support to make it not as intensive. Up to you. And both hands to the floor. Step back, plank or downward dog. Knees to the floor. And let's do it on the other side. Now taking your left foot to the outside of edge of your left mat. Nice broad angle, both hands to the floor. And starting to just roll your hips a little. In traditional texts, it was sort of believed that, well, and there is that intimate connection between the physical body and the subtle covering of the mind. And that the more you can kind of work through tensions in the body, that will help to unravel or dissolve tensions in the mind as well. So, hoping that's going to be a nice outcome for us. It adds to why we feel so relaxed after our practice. All right, I'm getting a little too into that movement, losing track of time. Okay, now settling either forearm to the floor or bringing your support system in, wrapping your elbow or your hand to your knee, and just letting go. And slowly making your way out of the pose. Hands to the floor. Step back into plank. Downward dog if you like. And slide the right knee in between your hands. And using your foot to dial your right heel out in front of your left hip. So the most modified version would be to sit on top of your heel. Slightly more intense is to take your heel just in front of the opposite hip. And then from then, the more you take that hip out and away from the left hip, the closer your shin becomes parallel to the end of your mat, the more intense it's going to be on your hip. But it's very much a hip stretch. It has nothing to do with your knee. So there shouldn't be any changes or sensations in your knee. The knee is just in a comfortable bend while your hips nicely rotating out. And our dear friend, the bolster, can be implemented here. Bring it in nice and close and melt forward. And we can take that same action of just exploring just a tiny gentle movement through the hips, not feeling like we have to hold this position completely static. If it feels good here, just laying forward, we're going to stay here for about 5 to 10 breaths. Go ahead and do so. Otherwise, you can do some tiny little shifts, moving your hips a little from side to side, hitting all those sweet spots, staying as long as you need to in all those different zones of your hip. Two more breaths on this side. Slowly making your way up. Shifting the bolster away. Hands to the floor. Step back into plank or downward dog. And switch to the other side. Taking your left knee forward, starting in the modified position, sitting on your heel, and then dialing your foot out a little, bringing your heel in front of your right hip, and then moving it out, 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 until you get to an appropriate level of stretch through your hip. Bringing in our bolster and folding forward, taking some little movements from side to side, but also reminding you that it's okay to hold a position and feel nothing, to not be sensation seeking in our practice. Sometimes our body does feel a little bit more open and free, and we can enjoy those times where it doesn't have to feel anything. That's a kind of rest in itself. Just being okay with that, being okay with the quietness, the simplicity of it. The more we practice that on the mat, the more we can cultivate it in our daily lives as well, which opens up space for peace, more space for happiness, for our inherent nature of love and blissfulness to shine through. Just a couple more breaths here. I don't want to move, but we must carry on. On with the show. Brace yourself up and move your bolster away. Keep it with arm's reach if you like. We've still got a couple more poses on the floor. You're going to step back. We're actually going to go into another variation of pigeon pose. So from here, stepping your right knee forward again, but try and keep your heel in nice and close. And we're going to go on a bit of an option here. So option is to go just a gentle rotation through the spine, open out through the chest, reaching the left hand back. It might be enough just to stay there. That might feel glorious. Stay there if you like. Or if you can reach for your back foot, you might need to use a bit of support and rearranging of your legs, taking your right hand to support your body and bring your right shin to the floor just to give you a little bit more space through the hip here so it's not such an intensive stretch. And then here you can start to work against your foot, pull against your foot, lift and lengthen and expand open through the chest, lengthen through your spine, or even just bring that foot in. If you are able to keep your hips relatively close to the floor, same position. If you can, hooking the elbow around your foot too, might be able to take a little reach. Trying to keep that left hip rolling down. And release. Hands to the floor. Plank or downward dog. Move to the other side. Left knee to the floor. Right heel left heel just in front of the right hip. And start with just a gentle rotation, expanding open through your chest, reaching into your right fingertips. And if it's accessible, reaching for your back foot. Rearranging through your body to find a position that works for you. Or hips a bit closer to the floor, keeping the right hip working down, bringing that heel nice and close, and wrapping the elbow around your big toe, and maybe clasping the left hand with the forearm tucked behind your head. Slowly release. One more downward dog. Everybody in downward dog now. Stretch it out. Then knees to the floor. Big toes together, knees wide apart. And melting your chest down to the floor, hands stacked on top of one another, forehead stacked on the backs of your hands or wrists. Wrist. Slowly press yourself up. I'm going to go, usually we have some challenge poses at the end of our class. This is an invitation to challenge yourself without going into judgment or predisposed ideas around how things should look. Just moving with your body, going to your capacity. We're going to go into Hanumanasana, splits pose. So you can go from downward dog or all fours. I like to go, I'll take a little kind of mini vinyasa, raise the leg up, front foot forward, go into half splits, and then shift the hips forward, wiggle the front foot forward, coming into wherever it is for you. It might just be a straight leg forward, slight bend through the back knee, and begin to lower down. If you like, for a modification, you can take the bolster under where your hips are and have a beautiful experience of feeling nice and grounded through your hips, lifting through your spine, getting a nice stretch through the legs and hips. That actually feels amazing. Props are the best, bolsters especially. And then releasing, taking that leg back, coming back through a downward dog, stretch out. Inhale the left leg up. Exhale, stepping your foot forward. Crescent lunge, hands to the floor, half splits. Shift your weight forward, slide your foot forward, taking the bolster under your hips if you like. Staying here for 3 to 5 breaths. Now to come out of the pose, hands to the floor. Lift through the core, walk that foot back. Child's pose. Yes, yes, yes. And a couple of options here. Okay, I'm going to go with the wall straddle. If you don't have a wall available, you can practice frog pose, sliding your knees apart. Just try and keep your knees and your hips tracking and your knees aligned with your ankles. If you have a wall available, taking your hips nestled up nice and close to the wall. Take your legs up the wall first, and then slowly and gradually straddling your legs. So it's just like we do seated, but you've got gravity doing some of the work this time, and your whole upper body is completely relaxed. You can make a little halo around your head if you like, soft bend through the elbows, arms around the head. And just tuning into your breath. And you might notice that as your body starts to relax into this position, you can feel a gradual releasing and opening through your hips. So just adjusting your legs accordingly as your body starts to soften and surrender. We'll stay here for about another 10 breaths. So really taking some time to slow down now, even more. Keep just returning to your breath. Anytime your mind wanders, just bring it back to your breath. Allowing that focus on your breath to keep you anchored in this present moment. Present in your body. And also allowing it to help you take a bit of refuge from your mind, giving your mind something gentle and wholesome to focus on, rather than the activities, the circus activities of the mind. Okay. Fortunately, we have to come out of this position. I feel like I could stay here a lot longer, but we must continue on. Take your hands under your thighs. Take it very, very slow coming out of this position. Same with frog too. When you're in an intensive hip stretch, just slowly easing your legs back together. Wiggle your bum out a little bit. So you can just relax into your hips. And then hug your knees into your chest. And gently rock your knees from side to side.